At Clackamas Fire District, we are always here for you. We value our people and the people we serve. Our focus is establishing team, trust, empowerment, accountability, mindset, and service. Please remind everybody that if you're here in person, please sign up on the sheet next to the door. This is required by law, not by us. So, this is a call to order of the regular monthly meeting of Clackamas Fire District's Board of Directors at 5 o'clock for ORS 192.610 to ORS 192.690. Pursuant to ORS 192.650, this meeting is being recorded. The video recording of this meeting will be placed on the Clackamas Fire District website by this week sometime. At this time, I ask everyone to please stand, face the flag for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Changes to the agenda. Assistant Chief Stewart, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Madam President, one change under the item R1E. The professional firefighters of Clackamas County Local 1159. Their presentation will be by Assistant Shop Steward Kevin Schurter.
Thank you. Yeah. Approval of the minutes. Does any board member have any comments or changes to the minutes as drafted? Okay. Hearing none, the minutes for the regular board meeting on March 20th, 2023 stand approved as read. This is the portion of our meeting for public comment. I will now call for those statements from citizens regarding district business only. Tracy, did anyone sign up?
Not in person, and then not
On the web. Okay. So last chance, anybody here wants to give public comment? Okay, thank you. At this time, we will have the presentation of the annual audit from Singer Luac. Mark?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and introduce it. Kathy Wilson from Singer Luac should be joining us here online to do the presentation. I want to thank her and all the district staff that contributed to the audit report. And we have one action item to take after that related to resolution, but I will let Kathy present the audit and their findings.
Hi, everybody. I'm trying to get my video to come on, so I apologize. I'm sorry to not be able to be there with you in person today. I had intended to be and came down sick last week and decided it would be safest if I stayed home to do this. Thank you for having us having me to present the financial statements for June 30th, 2022. Each of you should have received a copy of the financial statements. And you should have received two letters. One that is our letter to you governance, as well as the deficiencies letter that we have to report to the district this year. I want to start out by saying that Mark and Michael and staff were all great to work with. They provided the information we needed to get the audit completed. Everybody was friendly, and it was a decent process, just to let you know. So we'll start with a financial report, just because I think that's everybody wants to know, what was the opinion. So in the financials, if you have printed copies, it's going to be page A through C. And if you have electronic versions, it's going to be pages 8, 9, and 10. And this is our independent auditors report. And there's been a slight change to the presentation of the auditor's report this year. There was a new standard that moved the opinions to the very first part of the auditor's report, because that's the part that everybody wants to know about. And so we audited the information that was provided. And in our opinion, the county has reported in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And so you have received what is called an unmodified opinion. We have included an emphasis of matter that describes and discusses points to note 3 in the financial statements related to prior period adjustments that are also included in your financial statements. And I think that's probably a good place to move to from here, because that's one of the more important things that we want to discuss. So note 3 is on page 17 if you're looking at the printed copy, or if you're on an electronic copy, it's on page 37. So beginning net position, that would be net position as of 6/30/21, has been increased by $684,996 due to some corrections of some accounts. So you had an understatement in capital assets of about 1.1 million, and then you had some overstatements in cash and your property taxes receivables of 450,000. So the net of those things increased your net position by 680,000. Now, in the fund statements themselves, capital assets don't impact that. So cash and property taxes receivable, as well as the offsetting deferred revenues for property taxes, the change for the fund statements reflects those changes. So management had identified, and I believe that the board is probably aware of this, some discrepancies in cash and how cash was being reconciled in the past. And then also identified property taxes receivable and related deferred revenues that were not being recognized appropriately under the district's 60-day policy for recognition. The capital assets were identified during our audit procedures. Management was aware of them and knew that we would come across this. And they just did not have enough time to take care of the situation before we actually started looking at those work papers. So capital assets were not being maintained in the munis system to agree to the financial statement records before. And then during the work that management did related to that, they also identified items that should have been capitalized that had not. And so the resulting changes resulted in this restatement of your capital asset by 1.1 million. Above that paragraph there in note 3, the last paragraph for note 2 is also something I think that's important to point out this year. The Governmental Accounting Standards Board issued GASB statement number 87. This is the new lease standard that everybody has been dreading. The statement actually didn't have a material impact on the district's financial statements because you guys don't have a lot of what used to be referred to as operating leases. You had a few of them. The effect was immaterial to the financial statements as decided by management. And so those impacts have not been recorded in the financial statements. In the governance letter, you'll find a report that says past adjustment that shows you the detail of what those changes would have looked like had the amounts been recorded in the financial statements. We agree with management that they didn't have a material impact, but they were above where we could pass without giving that information to you. The presentation of the financial statements are slightly different this year. You'll note that you probably have a few more pages than you've had in the past. You have capital projects funds that are all being reported separately as capital projects funds, whereas before they were being combined with the general fund. They were being provided or presented like that before, I believe, because GASB 54, application of GASB 54, but not applied appropriately. GASB 54 required that any funds that were funded by transfers from the general fund be rolled up and included in the general fund. But that doesn't apply to capital projects funds. So you'll see that each of those funds have been reported separately in their own columns. This year you have two major funds, one being the general fund and one being the capital projects fund. That's the only other significant change really to the financial statements that you'll note. On the last 2 pages of the report, you'll find our report to the state of Oregon in relation to the district's compliance with Oregon revised statutes and the minimum standards as required. There were a few things that came to our attention during work that was performed over budgets. So there were some historical amounts that are required to be reported as actual that per your audited financial statements that didn't get updated in that 22-23 budget. When we're looking at this information, we're looking at the budget that you're adopting during the current year. So it's always going to be a year forward. Information that wasn't actual was reported, just the information was incorrect. Also in the budget document for the general fund, the adopted resources were 68 million. The requirements were 70 million. Those amounts are supposed to equal, and they did not. And the reason that they did not was because the beginning fund balances and the ending unappropriated balance was not included in the calculation of the document. So you had kind of a mismatch there. Also, the published budget summary, the LB1 for 2021, the numbers that were the historical amounts listed for 2021 didn't agree with the budget document, the information that was presented. So just a few things, nothing that's really egregious, but all items that we need to bring to your attention and to the state of Oregon's attention. Also in that report, under the area that talks about internal controls, we did indicate to the state that we have a separately issued letter regarding deficiencies in controls. And this is because of the identified deficiency related to maintenance of capital assets that's reported in the management letter. So I'm going to move to the letters, and then we'll cover questions at the end, if that works.
That's fine.
Okay, great. So we'll talk about this, since we're talking about internal controls, we'll go ahead and we'll move to the internal control letter, the deficiencies letter. So there were a few things that we noted, the largest thing being the accuracy of capital asset information reported, and that just that information had not yet been reconciled between prior audited financial statements and what was actually in your modules. And as a result of the work done, there was the adjustment that was recorded for the prior period. So management is going to address that, as indicated by Mark, that they will take care of making sure that that information is properly being accounted for and recorded and available to us accurately at the time that we come to perform the audit. We did note a few other things that we consider control deficiencies. There was a segregation of duties related to cash receipting that we noted that was lacking, and management is working on addressing how to best address that to make sure that you don't have the same person receiving payments and preparing bank deposits. Also, when we were there, we noted that there was a lack of security of deposits. They weren't being maintained in a secure location with limited access. And I believe that a lockbox has now been implemented to keep that information secure and restricted. Timeliness of banks reconciliations and just a documented review of those. And that was as a result of just discrepancies and things that were noted as management was determining what the issue and impact was to cash. So reconciliations didn't actually happen timely during the year. I anticipate that this next year things will be a little different. We also attempted to test internal controls over the payroll systems, and we were not able to determine who does the time card approvals because the system itself does not allow for that information to be presented so we can actually see. And unfortunately, in an auditor's world, if we can't see that a control occurred, then we can't confirm that a control occurred. And so we have to say that there's an issue there. So, and I believe that management was working with the vendor to see if there was a report available or something that would allow us to see that documentation. As a result, we had to do additional procedures over payroll substantively, as opposed to relying on some controls related to those. So, last letter is the governance letter. And so in here, we just talk about the audit. I've mentioned, everything was everybody was friendly. information wasn't withheld. We didn't have any problems getting the information, just an amount of time to be able to get the capital assets nailed down. Kind of put you guys behind a pretty long line in our 12/31 work. So here we are in April presenting last year's June audit. So this next year will be a little more timely than that. I anticipate that we'll probably be visiting each other in October or November at the very latest. In this letter, we talk about the significant accounting estimates that are in the financial statements, depreciation, all of the stuff related to the pensions, the net pension liability, OPEB liability, related deferred inflows and outflows. Those are your most significant estimates, and the disclosures related to the prior period adjustment, and then just disclosure related to cash and investments, because you do have a little bit of that. It also talks about audit adjustments. You have a copy of the adjusting journal entries that were the result of our audit procedures attached to that letter. You also have a copy of that past adjustment report, as I indicated earlier. Management's representation letter is also attached to your governance letter document. And in that letter, management had to attest to us that they provided us all the information, everything was true and accurate. There was nothing withheld, nothing that had occurred subsequent to the end of the year that would require disclosure in the financial statements. And that is what I have for you. So does anybody have any questions? Hey, my camera is finally on. Hooray! It only took the entire presentation. New computer, I have to say. Last Friday, IT required me to change my computer, and it's been an adventure the last weekend. So
I'll relate to that. Okay, yeah. Anybody have any questions? I have a couple on your control deficiencies issues. Particularly the segregation of duties. What would you expect as a reasonable time period for the district to correct that?
If it's corrected by the time that we come back out to audit this next year, I think that that's appropriate. And if not, you'll see it again in the letter for next year. So.
Let me tell you, we better not see it anywhere. So, is that on the state letter, the one that you sent to the state, are there penalties, or is it just information to the state, or what could happen or should happen to the district for your having to report these?
So no penalties. The state doesn't have very many penalties in place. Usually it's with filing timely, but they allow for extensions. And so thankfully, and I don't think they've actually ever implemented the penalties they have available for that. So the district board just needs to write a document saying how they're going to address the items that were noted. And then also in relation to that, the items that were noted on the deficiencies letter, as that has been turned into the state of Oregon along with your report. And it's called a plan of action. And I believe Mark and I discussed where to find the like a template that they have if you want some guidance on how that report should look. So
yeah, I believe we will. It's on our agenda to adopt tonight, so we're going to take care of that.
Great.
If that's all I have, nobody has anything else. I would like to thank you and your firm for stepping up to this. It was late for you to be engaged, and we very much appreciate the professionalism and expertise that you've shown. And well, I guess to the extent you want to look forward to an audit, we look forward to seeing you in October.
Yep, that's great. We are already scheduled to come and do audit procedures beginning in August. And so we anticipate that we'll be visiting with you a little bit earlier in the year this next year. We have to say that this is one of the better clients that we picked up this year. So thank you guys for being really good to work with. Great.
Anything else? Anybody else? Mark, did you have anything you want to add?
No, thank you, Kathy. Like I said, I think previously, I think it's great to have Sandra Luke and Kathy come in. We've been using the same auditor for many years, and as you can tell from the deficiencies and the findings, it was a thorough review of our operating procedures that has not happened before. And so, I welcome these changes. I think they're best for the district and they're holding us accountable. And we'll talk about one of them in the plan of action that's coming up on the agenda. But I think it's a positive development that we have this little review and that we can be transparent with the public and the board. So appreciate you guys taking the time to look through it.
Thank you again, Kathy. I hope you feel better.
Thank you. I am getting better, slowly but surely. Thank you.
You're staying home.
Well, yes, staying away from everybody else so I don't infect anyone. So
I just wanted to comment on Mark's comment too. I thought it was very thorough. And I don't ever remember having a packet mailed to our home before. So that was nice, but very good job. Thank you.
thank you. All
Thank
right,
you.
I'll let you guys to your business. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, business items. B1, request board approval of the annual audit for fiscal year 2021-22. Chief Financial Officer.
I don't have much to add, except to recommend acceptance of the audited financial statements for 21-22 as presented in the last presentation.
Does any board member have any further questions or comments to share regarding the audit? Then do I hear a motion to accept, I believe is what you said, Mark, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, to accept the annual audit for fiscal year 2021-22.
So moved. I second that. Again, not hearing too many comments or complaints from us and the Mark, that shows it's a good audit, and we appreciate it.
We haven't seen the list of that. Okay, so moved and seconded. Tracy, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Thomas,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yeah.
Jim,
Yes.
and Chris.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item B2, board approval of resolution 23-03, adopting a plan of action for internal control deficiencies. Chief Financial Officer Mark Whitaker.
Okay, thank you. This is of course also related to the audit. It is to adopt a separate resolution. So as Kathy was discussing, when a material weakness or significant deficiency is found, the auditors report that to the Secretary of State. And the district is required to approve a resolution and a plan of action to correct that material weakness or significant deficiency. We had one material weakness related to the accounting of capital assets, which Kathy covered. It's for the most part, it's all related to prior year accounting under the previous auditor, and so we updated that midway through the summer, midway through the audit to get capital assets to reflect their actual value and depreciation as of June 30th. And then the final step is to transfer all of that into our financial system Munis, so that when the auditors return, we can produce the financial statement out of the financial system that works. So that's most of the plan of action is already complete. Because of our audit came out so late, we're only adopting this resolution now. But I am confident that we'll have it finalized by June 30th, so we're ready for the next audit. And so I would just ask approval of that resolution, but also take any questions. I should also address the deficiency letter also found other deficiencies that were not considered significant or material, but we are addressing those as was noted in the responses. I cannot guarantee that all of them will be addressed prior to the next audit. The most difficult one to implement will be the timekeeping approvals and issues, but the other ones we definitely have on, and I think those you should not see again. So that's where we are in terms of the deficiencies that have been identified.
Any questions, Mark? Okay, then do I have a motion for the board to approve resolution 23-03, adopting a plan of action for the internal control deficiencies identified in the audit?
I so move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Tracy, please call the roll.
Jim,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yeah.
Chris,
Yes.
and Thomas.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. At this time, the board will now conduct interviews for 2 budget committee positions that will be vacant on April 30th, 2023. So the applicants will each be asked 3 questions and have 5 minutes to respond. The first applicant is Julie Kennedy. Go ahead. So,
Sure, yes, thanks for letting me hop on via Zoom. I am still at work, so save me a little bit of time here.
okay, we're having volume problems. See which end is at.
Can you hear us, Julie?
I can hear you.
Or we can barely hear you.
Barely. We're working on it then, I guess. Is that? No?
No, so we heard Kathy fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, try again. Julie, can you speak up or just try again?
Sure, can you hear me now?
It's
well,
better,
better, yeah,
but still faint. Can you get closer to your speaker?
Oh, it's not picking up.
Pretty close to my computer.
Well,
yeah,
give it a try.
yeah.
That's what we gotta do. We might have to ask you to repeat, so forgive us.
Okay,
Okay, Thomas, please start us out.
Julie, welcome. My question is, please tell us about yourself and your interest in service as a budget committee member.
well, as a taxpayer in the district, I thought this might be a way to learn more about where my tax dollars are going, as well as being able to give back to the community. I kind of feel that you can't just sit back and complain. Sometimes you have to get involved and find out the details. I am also the wife of a first responder, so I have an appreciation for the profession and the important duties that it serves. So I wanted to maybe give back in my own way with helping out on this committee.
Thank you.
Chris?
Thank you, Julie. Our next question is, please summarize your understanding of the primary roles and responsibilities of the budget committee.
So it's my understanding that we would be assisting in reviewing the budget that's presented, asking any questions or clarifications in order to get it ready and presented to the board.
Good, thank you.
Hi, what experience, skills, and abilities do you have that will support your role as a budget committee member?
Well, I am a previous business owner, so I've run a couple of different businesses. I am currently the office manager at a CPA firm. So I'm handling everything about this particular business, accounts receivables, payables, keeping, the books straight. Here we are heavy tax oriented, so I'm also a little bit intertwined in that. I am also currently the Sandy Kiwanis treasurer, so I am keeping the books for that organization currently. So I'm pretty comfortable around a balance sheet, general ledger accounts, budgets, and having to keep track of all those things that go into that. So there may be some idiosyncrasies related to a public service agency that I might not be super familiar with, but I think I could get up to speed fairly quickly.
Thank you. Do you have anything else you would like to add?
Just that, like I said, I have an appreciation for the fire service, and would be a way for me to give back in a small way and learn more about what's going on in our fire district, and being able to have some, relevant current facts that I can pass on to other people so they have the right story too.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your taking time to apply and to be present here through Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next applicant, William Gifford. You want to stand up or sit there? This main imaging.
Yeah, it's a little awkward.
Yeah.
She looks nice like that. I should go home. I'll stand over here. How's that?
Okay. Thank you. All right. Chris, you want to lead us out? Chris?
Oh, am I the lead off here?
Mhm.
Question one, William, please tell us about yourself and your interest in service as a budget committee member.
I get 5 minutes for this, right? But it's not 5 minutes for each question.
Exactly.
I see,
Correct.
I don't know how many years I've been a member of this district's budget committee, but
Long time.
it's been a long time, and
10,
really? 10 years?
according to what you wrote online. yeah.
Oh, I make stuff up. I have enjoyed immensely the opportunity to participate in the decision-making process that's delicate and important. I say delicate because there's so many little tweaks that they say a large ship can be guided by a small rudder. And I like to keep an eye on that rudder because this is an important ship. I can't remember what the next questions
Oh,
are.
Jim will ask the next question. We're not gonna expect.
Am I
you to-
finished with that one?
Are you, if you're finished, if you're not, continue.
What was the question?
Tell us about yourself and your interest in the budget committee.
Well, it's two different things. About myself, I'm kind of a geek. I like numbers a lot. I've been self-employed for 35 years. So I think I have a pretty good handle on money. I'm also involved in other budget committees. I just got reappointed to the city's budget committee and the urban renewal budget committee. I've been on Wes's budget committee for many years. I finally got off of that. I'm an appointed commissioner for the Clackamas County Economic Development Commission, which is on a bit of a hiatus right now where they're reorganizing the county's economic development department, but I've served on that. Seems like there's some other things that I've done, but I'm comfortable with budgets and comfortable with how money works. That's enough.
Please summarize your understanding of the primary roles and responsibilities of the budget committee.
I do not like to think of the budget committee as just rubber stamps of taking a proposed budget and saying, yeah, that looks good, without spending the time of poring over it and reviewing it in some detail. I don't know that it's our responsibility to be aware of every jot and tittle. I don't know, we're going to be adding up large sums of numbers. Where, I mean, we have to put some element of trust in Mark, but and the gang. But I do think that it is our responsibility to get the general flow and the general feel of our revenue and our expenses. I think that we also have the responsibility to ask detailed questions and provocative questions that perhaps those that are dealing with it day to day are not seeing. And I think those of you that know me know I like to ask a lot of questions, and I think that's healthy. I think that our role is really an advisory group that we'll be making making recommendations back to the board. Thank you.
I'm gonna ask you this question, but I think you might have already substantially answered it. So what experience, skills, and abilities do you have that will support your role as the budget committee? So there's, I think you pretty much covered that in your first answer, but if there's something you'd like to supplement that with?
I'm very comfortable in this position. I don't want to say so comfortable that I'm lackadaisical about it. I'm diligent and I'm honest and I'm hardworking when I take on responsibilities. But I think that I am comfortable in this position because I've done it before, but not just that, because I understand the process.
William, with your experience that you have stated, your activity with various budget committees brings a lot of knowledge and experience to this group also. And we believe you have become an ambassador for the Clackamas Fire. And not only being a watchdog, but you're also an ambassador. Do you have any other, anything else to add to what we have discussed?
It's probably not directly an answer to that. I was very impressed with this audit. And I haven't seen a copy of it. But I imagine it's online. Is it?
Yes, it's on our website.
It's not as much fun to curl up in bed with a computer, but wow, great, thank you. But I will review this, and I think that the more we know about how we operate, the more we can present our positions to the community. I thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Joseph, about the commissioner, counselor, whatever you are, Thomas. I do take that position responsibly about being an ambassador for this district. I think that there are a lot of people that don't understand this. They still call it a fire department, and I've been constantly reminding them that this is not a department of the city. It's not a department of the county. It's its own independent taxing entity. And I take that responsibly. That people ask me a lot of questions. I have a lot of contacts in the community.
But that's what I was saying, because you are in touch with the community. When you represent you and you know, then they know you are involved. And they will be coming to you for the questions. So we appreciate that.
Well, I'm happy to serve.
That's it. Thank you, William.
Thank you, William.
Okay, the next applicant, Daniel DeHaven.
Hello.
Wow.
Hi, Daniel. The first question, please tell us about yourself and your interest in service as a budget committee member.
I grew up originally in Michigan and joined the Army when I was 18, and just 2 years, but honorable discharge after that. And that got me to California for about 20 years. And in 2008, moved up here to Oregon. Shortly after moving up here, went to work for Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue as a management analyst and was responsible.
I'm sorry, Daniel.
Yes,
Where did you go to work?
Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue.
Okay.
Yeah, Big Valley. Yeah. And was responsible for preparing the budget, financial report, CAFR report every year. Worked also on the financial systems, and Munis implemented that. I'm also a geek when it comes to the numbers and love spreadsheets and analyzing the data and really seeing the story that they tell. And then being able to share that with people that really see the insights. Have a house in Walnut, or I'm Happy Valley down at 172nd now.
Thank you.
Please summarize for us your understanding of the primary roles and responsibilities of the budget committee.
review the budget thoroughly. And I think, having insight to the prior years is a really big aspect to that. Working with the board and the district through questions and understanding of facets that you might want more information about. And then really sticking with it many years, I think, to be able to see, there's projects that spread many years, capital projects, and apparatus and long-term planning that I'm also very interested in.
Daniel, I know you said you came from California, started working as TDF and that as a volunteer or a?
No, that was the management analyst. So I was the right hand of the CFO.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, so
How
all
long
those
did you
years,
work there?
about almost 8 years. So the first year though as a contractor.
Okay.
But almost 30 years in finance and accounting. Right now I'm a director of financial systems and in charge of all the budget and financial reporting.
For TDF and that?
No. I went back to the private industry
private,
in 2015. But I also still have worked for Emergency Consulting International on mergers and acquisitions in the public sector space.
You expressed quite a few of your skills and experience. Would you also tell us what abilities do you have that will support your role as a budget committee for this district?
Well, I think also the nuances of the fire district, working with the fire district for 8 years is how I did, and really getting deep into a lot of different pieces that are key to the fire district. Oregon property tax, measure 5 and 50, I became an expert on that. Compression, right, that comes from that. Urban renewals impact on districts, I did a bunch of work on that. Also for the City Club of Portland. Also worked on the IGA with Clackamas Fire back in 2012 and created that whole program for several years. So there's a lot of insight, I think, there that I can find.
Thank you.
Okay, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Also, I think that working for the fire district and fire service is one of the most rewarding jobs and work I've ever done. So I think I'm a strong believer in the stewardship of the public dollars.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
thank you.
Next up, James Kerr, bidder card.
Adding cleanup.
Okay. Is it Kerr or Carr?
It is Kurt.
It is, okay, so James, would you please tell us about yourself and your interest in the service on our budget committee?
Well, I am a mostly retired mechanical engineer. I worked for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for 34 years. Retired as chief of the mechanical structural branch. Located in Portland is the National Design Center for Hydropower for the Corps 75 plants across the nation. So I managed mechanical structural portion of that. After retiring from that in 2014, went to work for Wärtsilä, Finnish company, helped them buy American Hydro, a turbine manufacturer. Then I went back into retirement until about 2 years ago and got talked into coming on board with HDR Engineering. So I'm still there as an occasional part-time person that had no hours last year. So that's me. The interest in the position, I happened to see it online that it was open, and since I've got a bit of experience running an organization of 40 engineers, 4 sections, doing federal budgets. Now, all my experience is doing federal budgets, doing staff budgets, getting them approved, executing them. I thought it'd be interesting to apply and see if I could add some outside expertise.
Please, in addition to you already have explained, please summarize your understanding of primary roles and the responsibilities of the budget committee.
Well, from what I read, because I had to go figure out what the job was, one should always look at what the job is before you volunteer. It appears to be a review function. The CFO and his team creates a budget. It's then digging into that budget. What do the numbers mean? And then making a recommendation to the board for you guys to pass it. So that's about all I can say from what I've read.
Thank you, James.
You've kind of already touched on a lot of this, but what experience, skills, and abilities do you have that will support your role as budget committee member? Add anything you got?
Well, not a lot on the fire side, other than a son-in-law that works for, as a volunteer for, Nahalem Bay Fire. So that's the extent of my fire experience. Other than I did have a brand spanking new, fire truck parked in my driveway for about a half an hour back in November. They, sent him back to retrieve it from, Minnesota, Rohrbrook. And he got to drive it all the way back out. He stopped at the house, picked up their car and went home. Anyway, the question again was, I kind of.
Just any more skills, abilities, experience that you want?
It would be the engineering side of the house where I've got an analytical mind. I can look through budgets. Like I said, I ran the whole branch, which had 4 sections reporting to me. And you have to stay out of the weeds when you're running a big engineering organization. You have to ask questions, keep the focus on that. Don't get down in the weeds. Don't try to micromanage. So that's the part I guess I would bring.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
So do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of the applicants. We would ask at this time that the applicants exit to the lobby while the board discusses your interviews. We will be making a decision.
Yeah. One by one.
We have 2.
Yeah, next, just, back the 2 and then go. And then take one by one.
Or do we just maybe go through each segment and kind of summarize what we've done?
Real quick, Julie's still on here. We're trying to get her muted. She's still on remotely.
Oh, she's still on the.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're just trying to get her muted. So.
okay. Okay.
We need to.
They're gonna have to remove her and then she will need to log back in. Where I can do that. There's not a reason or anything.
You send her, yeah, tell her that.
Okay, yeah.
If we just toss her offline. While we toss her offline.
No? Okay, all right, thank you. As you know, gentlemen, we have 2 vacancies. So. Start.
It's amazing that we keep having more people apply for these committees than positions, which is a good thing. Thought they were all 4 very good candidates. I guess the 2 that stood out to me and the reasons, William, because he's a current budget committee member, I've witnessed him, he asks those hard questions. He's not just a rubber stamper. The experience, I think, of 10 years is good because he came through this transition from the last administration to current with us. So he understands that. He's always been very supportive of the district, and he's on the City of Oregon City Budget Committee. The other one that stood out to me was Julie. I don't recall ever having a committee member that's in the far east county. She's about as far as you can get, almost in Sandy Fire District. Her community involvement, the Sandy Kiwanis, the treasurer, the Sandy Chamber of Commerce, the Sandy Main Street committee, I think is important with the Sandy contract, especially her connections at this moment in time, to me is really important. And she currently works in a CPA office. So those are the two that stood out to me that I would choose. Daniel, tons of experience, obviously, 12th and Valley, director, finance, 30 years, been a consultant. Could he be too qualified? I don't know, I guess that was one of my thoughts. And then James, 34 years in Army Corps of Engineers, great experience, but my two would be Julie and William.
My two will be, of course, William. We have seen him in action, so he has proven record. And my second candidate, I agree with Jim in a way, but my second candidate, you do Daniel. And Julie as a third, and then James as the.
Chris?
Well, I have to agree with Jim. Usually budget committee, you go out begging and try and find enough bodies, and then you have four, all of whom are
Very qualified.
very qualified.
Yeah.
It's just kind of impressive. I'm kind of torn because I have one of these things about when somebody raises their hand out of the foxhole and volunteers for public service and something like this, I like to grab one. And we have three new ones and one guy that's involved in lots of different places in the community. And that's the thing, I guess, as much as I value William, it's hard to let another newbie go when you get somebody else involved in the public process, because it's just so hard to get them to do that. For that, I don't know, then the financial thing, I like the analytical of an engineer as much as engineers have been the bane of my existence many times. I guess I would have to say my first two would be Julie and James.
Okay. I would like to ask the chief financial officer if he had the hesitation about having someone on the budget committee that has worked for DBSNR. Or would you consider that a neutral or plus the negative?
I would probably consider it a neutral. They might bring in some expertise and experience and a different viewpoint. But they also, might come in with some preconceptions or things about how TBFNR worked and we're different. So, but I mean, I don't see it as a negative or positive. I think it's fine.
So I would reappoint Wood because I think he's been a good budget committee member. He's always prepared, he's thorough, and he asked those difficult questions, and nicely. He's not belligerent, and so he would certainly be up for me for reappointment. And the other three is just as a challenge, as you all have indicated. We have a circuit of people who want to help us out, which is awesome, and so challenging to have to pick one. And one's from Sandy, Daniel's from Damascus, so that gives us some Eastern connection. If you don't count it. And Jay. So, I guess I would be inclined, I would think in addition to William, I would probably select Dan because of his budget expertise. Daniel.
Daniel.
So we have a split. So
William and Daniel for 2. And then Chris is 1 for James and Julie.
Well, you have 3, you have, William has 3,
mhm.
and Tom, and then Daniel and Julie are both at 2.
So if we looked at it as the 3 of us chose William, so
That's,
we could be good with him.
that's.
And then the other,
Select the other second candidate.
sounds like I heard a couple Julies and a couple Daniels.
Mhm.
So I guess we just have to decide on that one.
Yeah.
And I would, after hearing all of the comments, probably still keep my vote at Julie for the reasons I mentioned.
Fine. Tom?
I will support Julie.
I can support William, and then
Yeah, we all agree in agreement for William. No, you did not, okay. But we-
just for,
William or not,
nothing about him, it's just
Yeah.
so much as I hate to lose a new one.
Yeah.
We gotta grab them when they show up, when they bite the hook.
Well, there you go, your sunrise, is always looking for people, you could just contact them and
Trust me.
say.
You know, just like the civil service commission, Brian, after the selection process, we need to make sure they are informed that we want to keep them on file so that we can reach out for further future considerations. So it's not just the end of the day. And we don't want to lose them. Like Chris said, when somebody walk in, we really don't want to lose them, but we see here highly qualified. And some of the reason Jim stated, reaching out to Sandy, especially when we are reaching out. I feel Daniel is more qualified than Julie as far as experience and professionalism. But sometimes we have to agree on for just goodwill.
Does Julie live in the district?
Yes.
She does.
Okay. I'm not sure that was.
She lives in Sandy? No.
Well, she lives in Sandy, she doesn't live in the district.
She lives in Boring. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so I understand then, and are we in accord, with consensus, William and Julie?
Yes.
Right. Okay, would somebody please ask that applicant back in? We'll see if you can get Julie back, whatever it is you do.
That was really hard.
It was very highly qualified, all of them. I wish we had 4 openings.
Okay, so, at this time, does any board member have questions or comments they'd like to share about, the applicants for the budget committee appointments?
So I appreciate we have 4 citizens that would raise their hand. It's really hard. I've served on 2 different boards, and trying to find budget committee members is a battle each and every year. So having 2 openings and 4 applicants is a blessing and a curse.
And not only just applicants, but they are highly qualified applicants, all the 4 of them. You're told.
And it was a very difficult decision for us. But at this time, I'm gonna ask for a motion for the board to appoint William Gifford and Julie Kennedy to the Clackamas Fire Budget Committee for a term of 3 years.
So moved.
Second,
All right, move the second. Tracy, would you please call the roll?
Chris,
Yes.
Jim,
yes.
Marilyn,
Yep.
and Thomas.
Yes.
Thank you, and again, thank you.
Thank you, William, James and Daniel. This is not just a break off. We want, since you are getting involved in this, we would like to, there will be other opportunities that comes up.
Not a problem.
Do you happen to be customers of Sunrise Water Authority?
Yeah.
Dave.
You might have some offering there.
I'll be getting home here.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Take care, carry on. Good work. I put it.
Okay, item B4, request board approval of contract renewal of renewal from Business Solutions, Chief Technology Officer. You joining us?
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank
Larry.
you.
Okay, where's Oscar?
Oscar is coming.
It is online, but he needs to accept the request to move him over as a panelist, which I sent to him.
You ever get back on?
Um,
Call and tell her the good news.
Oh,
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board, and thank you, Tracy, for allowing me to finally join the panelists and stop kicking me off, but that's okay. Madam President, I want to point out first that there's a change in the name. It says approval of contract renewal, and there's actually approval of a purchase or lease agreement. So through the Sourcewell cooperative purchasing agreement that's attached in the packet, we are allowed to do a purchase or lease agreement. Myself and Finance Manager Michael Wong found the terms and conditions of the Sourcewell cooperative purchasing agreement more favorable in the district's favor. And we were allowed to do a purchase or lease agreement for the same terms that are locked in for that 36-month period. And so that would be the change, is the actual title. Instead of approval of contract, it's approval of a purchase or lease agreement.
Okay, thank you. Want to just give us a thumbnail of it?
I didn't, I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't catch that.
You want to tell us what it is we're doing?
Oh, so we're doing a lease agreement for 36 months at that rate of $2,861. The impact, I guess the budget impact, it does require board approval for anything over 50,000 total, which is why I'm before you today. This terms and conditions are still the same in terms of like our service and maintenance, things of that nature. As far as existing devices, our devices did not reach the amount of use they normally would have without COVID being involved. Because we were able to see that savings, we're able to use the Sourcewell cooperative purchasing agreement to renew our lease and see some estimated savings, yearly savings.
So the equipment is already how many years old, and we're gonna pay for the next 3 years without trading any of it up?
Yes, the equipment is 3 years old. We are the original leasers of the equipment. And so we've been the only users of it, which is why we're able to get, based off their normal usage for that type of equipment, we're way underutilized. And so we're able to get this service agreement because of that.
Okay. And so I'd like to clarify something you said earlier, if I make sure I understood it correctly. Because I actually haven't been able to put my finger on the appropriate statute that says that this process is what we should be doing, that this is a permissive contracting agency cooperative agreement. So I guess what I want you to tell me one more time is that you and Michael are in agreement that this complies with our purchasing policy.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right, anybody else got any questions?
Have we had any ongoing trouble with the equipment we have, Oscar? Is it still all the stuff pretty well performing well?
Yes, it's still performing well. We still have our, part of our terms and conditions are like autofill of ink, staplers, things of that nature. Just some of those features are still into effect. We've had a very, very, very well turnaround in anytime we've had any type of repairs. We had issues with supply chain as far as ink. We have ran into that, but so has all other companies as well.
Anybody else? Okay, so Oscar, correct me when when I make this motion if it's incorrect. Do I hear a motion for the board to approve a 36-month extension on a lease to renew managed print services with Conica Minolta Business Solutions with a locked monthly rate of $2,861.72?
That was correct, ma'am.
So moved.
Second.
Then moved and seconded for the question. Okay, Tracy, please call the roll.
Marilyn,
Yeah.
Thomas,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
and Jim.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Oscar.
Thank you,
Thank
Oscar.
you. Thank you all.
Okay. Other business, no action required. OB1, Board Committee and Liaison Report, Civil Service, Director Haas.
Let's see, the civil service meeting, had very nice Hawaiian food catered in, that was a nice change. And that night they approved, the EMT list, the paramedic list, the captain's list. And there was one other thing they did, Chief Dieters, that other than you listened to somebody talk for quite a bit. The meeting was about twice as long as it needed to be. Somebody asked him a question. Apparently wrap it up is not his new repertoire. The testing packet that they approved. The test, yes, that's testing packet. And we've had, what were the numbers you had for the applications? 301 and.
The entry level was, I might be off by just a handful, about 346 or so applicants for the entry level firefighter. And then the apprentice was in the 400s, about 450, somewhere around there for the apprentice.
Good.
Is that pretty unusual to have this large amounts, Chief?
We haven't had this large of an amount in quite some, for as long as I've been involved. I don't think we've had this many for the entry level.
Did we change the advertising?
We changed a couple of things. We changed we dropped the minimum requirement of your firefighter 1 certification because all new hires go through a 12-week academy with us, regardless of the certification they have. And then we instituted a company called Spark Hire, which allows people to submit their first round of interviews through video. And it's a savings for us. We get to watch them and go through them at a much better rate than having everybody come together. So that first round of eliminations, they get a chance to submit their best work. They get to answer the questions. And then we move on from there. And then they do finally come into a personal interview towards the end there. But I think those two things have allowed us to get more applicants, and we're advertising in a few different ways, mostly social media, thanks to Tracy. We get a lot through social media.
This video interview, is that the first time we did this?
Well, we've used it a couple of times now. We're in our second year of the The first contract I signed was only a 1-year trial, and then we negotiated one more year with a couple of different benefits to it. One of the things that it also does is it will notify the candidates for us via text or cell phone of their times that they have for their interviews. So no longer do we have to have somebody punch that stuff in and all that. So there's some efficiencies.
And saving, yeah.
But they do have quite a bit more on their à la carte for making it more efficient, but we just haven't purchased all that yet. We're still just kind of making sure that our return on investment is what we expected.
Yeah.
And so far it's there. And so we signed another year with them. And we've used it on almost all, any process that we have that is not internal only, we've used this Spark Hire. And it's worked out really well.
Do we use this same format for volunteers or no?
We did, I believe. Yes, we've instituted it across the board. It just seems to have such a wider draw for people to submit that way. And a lot of times, anybody that's gone through a fire service test, you always walk out and say, oh man, I forgot to say something. I forgot to say this. So this gives them multiple opportunities to answer the 5 or 6 questions. And then what they submit is what they believe is correct and what they believe is their best work. So it makes the decision harder on us, but it makes it easier on the applicant.
See what I mean about giving the chance?
End of report.
Anything further, Chris?
No.
Okay. Director Joseph, you have EM.
We had Chief Hoffman and Jay and I had a EMS committee, and Rick updated us the contract negotiation and recommendation from the county and the ambulance services. They gave a report. I forgot to announce in the area. I didn't bring the report, but Rick gave Jay and I a printed summary of the discussion and in progress. He is making headway, and he feels that some of the people that will, what's his name? Who is the EMS county?
Bill Conway?
Yes. Yeah. I'm having a senior moment. I'm senior moment. Yeah, those, having those people there really helped to make that connection for the EMS contracting.
Great question for Tom. Okay. So you doing it or I'm doing it? Okay, executive committee, we met on April 5th and they had discussions about the C800, CCOM, business hours for personnel, some personnel matters, and the budget committee appointment issues that we just dealt with. So CCOM, well, let's start with C800. Yeah, C800, as you know, is our backbone situation. Chief Stewart has been very involved in dealing with the financial shortfalls and issues that have contributed to those. We don't need to go into them, but suffice it to say, as members in the C800 group, we bear our proportionate share of cost overruns, and it will be significant to the fire district, which was the bad news. Is there good news? Not really, but we are exploring other options. At this current time, WACA is overseeing the finances for a fee, of course. And the estimated increases were a third over last year and then 5% per year for thereafter. The projects are not complete. The thought is that it's close to being completed, but it's still, I believe the estimate was 90% complete, but that last 10%, as we all know, is always a tough one. So we're looking at options for finding money and getting it done so that we have an operational system. Chief Stewart, you want to add anything to that?
Thank you, Madam President. I think you covered it well. Just to the cost increase for C800, that's based on user radios, how many radios you have on the system. And we did go back through and we dropped our count from about, I want to say it's 381 to 363. So we did go in and try to capture some savings by making sure that we were being judicious about what was on the system. Thank you.
Yeah, but it was about $10,000 reduction, I think
Just
you
about.
said, yeah. For that, so versus the 500 and some thousand, if something's better than nothing. CCOM, we're looking at our options again for dispatch services. We haven't done that in quite some time. And they want to give us a very significant fee increase for the coming year. Plus, they wish to allocate personnel costs to us in addition to us paying for the employees. So that like an overhead adjustment that they want to do. So this is again, it's a difficult situation. CCOM is not the only option, but for LOCOM or WACA to take over dispatching our services would be a big transition, and we're not even sure that they are available and are willing to quote us a reasonable price. So that is in transition at this juncture. Business hours, we talked briefly, the fire chief unfortunately has the authority to set business hours, but he's considering some changes to staffing in order to even things out among the personnel. He just discussed briefly a couple of personnel matters that have been successfully resolved at the fire chief level. And then we did talk about the budget committee applications and how pleased we all were that we actually have real people that wanted to go out for a change, and we weren't out standing on the street corner saying, please apply. So, anything? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, interagency committee.
Yes, again, I am continuing to be impressed the effectiveness of the IGA with the cities. Jim was not able to attend, thanks Chris, for short notice was able to come in and help with his presence. We had a city of Milwaukee IGA committee meeting on April 11th. And once again, they have informed us they were considering to put a park levy separation from the North Clackamas Park and Recreation and putting a levy which would have made a little bit of impact on our levy. But now they have decided not to do that. These kind of high-level discussions help to know before it goes out in the public. So it's again, I'm very, very happy the relationship we are building with the cities and hopefully with other agencies as well. That's what I have. Chris, do you want to add anything?
It was nice meeting the counselors and the mayor. And I think Thomas is right, those relationships, one of the city councilors at the school his kids go to, were having some sort of a fundraising thing. And he wondered if he could get a fire engine as one of the prizes for one of the classes that made the most. And Nick said he was pretty sure he could find a fire engine someplace. So it was really nice to meet all those people. It was a nice meeting.
Questions? All right. Board informational updates and comments. Any board member have any informational updates or comments to share? No.
Just real quick, I don't know if anybody else can report. They opened house at Station 6 Saturday. Wildly successful. While we sort of missed the mark the weekend before because none of us really figured out we were competing against every Easter egg hunt east of the river. And apparently fire engines have a limited appeal when there's candy involved. But Saturday at Station 6, there had to have been 200 or 300 people come through in an hour and a half. Probably 2/3 of them kids. Battalion Chief Kyle Olson is probably very tired because he lifted, I don't know how many kids into one of the interface rigs. And I think he enjoyed it as much as the kids did. And there were a couple little guys, I'm pretty sure we could have just handed him an application and told them to come back in 20 years because they're ready. One of them got to turn on the lights in the engine.
They let you in
No.
there?
All I did was ask about what they covered for the hot lap around the training system.
Right, thank you. All right, division and department reports, Office of Strategic Services, Assistant Chief Stewart.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to the point about the lights coming on, or one of the kids having a chance to do that. You missed, or maybe you were there when it happened at the Oak Grove one. One of the kids decided to press the air horn. Yeah, little different than turning the lights on. Certainly got everyone's attention. Couple highlights for the board, and one pertinent informational item, especially if you're going to come by Station 1 at any point. Station 1 has started some concrete work on the main driveway to the parking lot, so that is not accessible for the next month, give or take. So if you want to come to the fire station, there are a couple spots out by the apparatus bays on Kazi that you can park in, come to the front door, or very carefully come around the other side. Facilities and the station captain work on making sure there was signage to do that, but just so you know that a little bit of change there. And then two things from IT. So one, we've hired some temp labor for the next couple of months to help with some of the project work. And then Oscar didn't mention savings. So you asked about the age of the copiers and why. So we looked at Clackamas and they reported us for new equipment, between what new equipment was and what the proposal that they provide for the extension. It's a $16,200 a year difference. So that was a main driver, was the cost difference for us there. As the board president noted, there were some personnel matters in front of the board recently. Those have been resolved, and everyone's moving forward with that. And then the last piece I'll touch on is just kind of legislative pieces. Primarily, I wanted to highlight Sean Olson's work. He provided written testimony on Senate Bill 847, which is a bill modeled after, or looking to model some code after Seattle's fire code, which allows single stairwell occupancies up to 6 floors on small lots. And the fire service generally has some big concerns about that. So he provided some testimony on that piece against it. And then also he provided testimony to House Bill 5036, which was to the Joint Committee on Public Safety for the Department of the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office. New biennial budget. If the board wasn't aware, July 1, the Oregon State Fire Marshals will no longer be part of Oregon State Patrol, but it is becoming a department and will be reporting directly to the governor. So just a couple small pieces there. Happy to answer any question.
Questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Assistant Chief Leaders, we share an update with the Office of Business Services.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of the board. As Director Hawes said, a lot of them has been presentations about the levy to different associations, homeowners groups, CPOs, all across the board. We've been delivering that message, and then also the open houses, which, as Chris mentioned, the Easter one wasn't that popular, but we'll gain popularity as we go. And then another big thing that we've been working on is the Sandy contract. We've been working through that. We have Chief Snyder, Chief McKinnon here tonight. Thanks for coming. I've been working very closely with them, working through the components of that while we believe that we'll be a full press on that after the levy is done on the 16th, but not this week, but the following week. I'll start working out in Sandy 1 day a week to be out there available to those guys and everyone with questions, and also to help them with the transition. And they've been extremely helpful, very upfront, and helped us with a ton of stuff to get ready for this transition, which is completely different than the SDK experience we had, because of course they had no leadership there when we took over, so we had to do it all. So we're very appreciative of that. And then just one item to note from the FMO in March, they investigated 13 fires in March. Quite a bit. That's my end of my report.
Questions for Chief Leaders? Okay, thank you. Office of Financial Services, Chief Financial Officer Whitaker.
Okay, good evening again. We've had a lot of finance items tonight, so I'll keep it brief. Thank you for approving the members of the budget committee. So with that done, we're ready to kick off the budget process for 23-24. So it'll be a little delayed this year. We'll wait to release the budget and have the first budget committee meeting until after the levy vote. So the first budget committee meeting will be the week after the levy vote. So we'll get that on schedule, but the material can still be available at least 7 days in advance of that first meeting. So we'll get those budgets out to the board and the budget committee. The finance report begins on page 48 of the packet. I would just note, that with the supplemental budget that we approved at the last board meeting, you'll see that the expenditures for overtime on the first page and the expenditures by division or expenditure area on the third page are kind of more in line with the budget and percentage wise where we want to see them be. Now that we have those adjustments, so that's good, but we'll continue to monitor that in our revenue situation as the year progresses. And I think that's it for me tonight.
Questions for Mark? Okay, thank you. Office of Emergency Services, Division Chief Mueller.
All right, good morning, thank you. Just want to go down and hit a couple bullets from the training department. The academy is in right now with their week 6 or 6 recruits. This is off our lateral hire list. They plan to be on the line by July 1. There's a lot of testing going on right now. There's the finals from our first lateral academy, 2201, is just finishing up their last month of probation, and we have midterms going on for 2202, and then we're going to start having Sandy fire personnel do their bailout training. So it's extremely active at the training center. So if you're there, it is fly a drone over it and see how much activity is going on. It's pretty crazy. The calendar is pretty full. Crew 30 update. The onboard is completed. Chief Olson has them assembled. They are doing their training out of Boring. This year, they have one more piece of equipment to the arsenal that was donated from Clackamas Community College. So they have an older style 4-wheel drive, like Type 5 engine that they can utilize. Has 500 gallons of water. So Fleet has been working on that to kind of add that to Crew 30 to increase their agility on scene. And then a quick apprenticeship update. We're just finalizing the onboarding. We have chief interviews the 25th and 26th, and we hope to have them onboarded by mid-June. Captain Hahn, who's the apprentice coordinator, has offered up ride-alongs for all of the people going into a chief's interview, so they can actually want to see the job and get some experience before they walk into the interview. So like this morning, a gentleman walked in within the first 5 minutes, they tapped a house fire. And so never walking into a fire station before, and he's on a rig going on a house fire within the first 5 minutes. It was really cool. And then just the last update, and Steve spoke to it a little bit, but we have really engaged our captains in the community events with this levy. Extremely successful. I just want to give kudos to all the captains group for taking the pride and ownership and those CPO meetings and really looking at the information for the levy and going out there and doing a great job. And they're our lead presenters, and they've knocked out the park. So, and report from ops.
Yeah, how many crews do we have on Crew 30? Is it 30?
No, it's actually, we try and have a 20 person crew,
Is it
20 person hand crew, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is kept permanently at 20?
Yeah, so they're kind of they kind of dive in and out of it since they are seasonal employees. So if one drops out, we try and pull another one back in to keep that number up, to keep us technically typed as a.
So you have a waiting list or standby? Or
They do. They have the recruitment all set up, and they have people that they can onboard. I haven't talked to Brent on exactly what that list is right now, but it sounds like we're in good shape. So we have a crew boss that runs it as well. So yeah, pretty well organized.
Thank you.
And thank you, Keith. Professional firefighters, Clackamas County, Local 1159, Assistant Shop Steward Schroeder. Hey, Kevin.
Good evening. Had to unmute myself. Sorry about that. I apologize. I'll probably have a little overlap with Chief Mulick there. All right, got two things to talk about: the apprentice program and the levy campaign and what the union's doing for that. You guys can hear me okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. So I I think Dan touched on a couple of these, but I'm just going to go down it because I have it, and I don't remember exactly what he had, but so for the apprentice program, there was chiefs interviews for 26 candidates that are coming up, and looks like the potential to hire 9 to 12 of those. And as he talked, they're doing ride-alongs for those that are getting interviews, and I've seen a couple of those in the station. That's been great to see. There's a prospective start date for that academy for June 20th. The union wants to just say thank you to all those that participated in the interview process. We had a lot of members who gave up time, filled in for those who took the time to be on those panels. There's 436 applicants, which is a huge pool to pull from. So that was a lot of work for those guys. And then one of the goals is to have them firefighter 1 certified and EMT by November. So that's for the apprentices. For the levy campaign, the union's been working with the IAFF political strategist to build a campaign plan and a calendar. We got yard signs going out. We got those the last weekend, so those are going out this week. We've already got some big billboards that are been put up on some major highways. We've got 2 pamphlet statements with various endorsements as well in the pamphlet, and social media advertising is going to be running from April 14th through May 16th. So also looking at mailers for the last week of the campaign. Apparently 40% of voters vote in the last week. Just wait for the last minute. So we've also got 2 weekends of street corner rallies at busy intersections of Happy Valley, Milwaukee, and Oregon City, trying to hit, the north, south, and East Battalion. And then we're also running newspaper ads for the campaign and attending some community events as well to share information on the levy. You guys have any questions?
Questions, Lieutenant? Okay, thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, Volunteer Association report. And Ryan.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Just a quick report. We're trending just a little bit better on coverage, especially in our support units. Station 12, we had 16 evenings out of the month of March covered. 13, we had 15. Station 21, we had 13 and then 8 that responded out of Station 2. So we're trending in the right direction. One of the things I'd like to highlight is the training we're doing. We're hitting search and rescue. And the awesome thing is the training that's happening is former volunteers that I've volunteered with are now in a position inside the district where they're coming back and training the future firefighters. And it's super exciting to see guys like Gabe Stocker and Matt Harlan step up and instruct the current volunteers on that stuff. Forcible entry, EMS, we're working through research. We did some trauma assessments, wound down the month with a transitional meeting with Sandy and kind of what it would look like as their volunteers came over and tried to answer all the questions that they had so they could make an informed decision if they wanted to come over as a suppression volunteer or as a support volunteer, or if they just wanted to close that chapter. And I think there's going to be a menagerie of all of those based upon what I've seen. And then the last week of the month, we had a 5 Wednesday a month. And so we had a wellness talk about the Mediterranean diet, which is, I was kind of, you like the Greek salad or something like that. That's a good thing. But we did close out also an application process for volunteers. At the same time, probably not the best idea to run it in parallel with the apprentice and entry-level firefighters and volunteers all at the same time, which was a hindsight issue. But we had 560 plus clicks or views and a 12% conversion rate. So we had about 68 people that actually applied for it. And at the beginning of this month, we held the informational meeting, had about 60 in attendance. So in an era where we're not seeing a lot of volunteerism, I still think the community is behind that. We have some non-traditional, we have some career firefighter people that have come back and want to give back to the community. And then we have some young people that want to start out a career and try and earn their dream job by becoming a volunteer. So if you have any questions, go ahead and take them.
Thank you.
Then we have Kenton Johnson and replacement for Jerry Kearney.
Replacement for Jerry, that's yeah, substitute for tonight, thank you. So yeah, Jerry's on some well-deserved time off out of town, and appreciate the opportunity to bring just a few things. The association meeting we had a few weeks ago, Chief Brown brought, it was a great time to him to talk to us about the Sandy project as well as the levee. We didn't have food there, which is why I guess he came instead of you. So, in addition to drills and pub ed activities, and our volunteers have been involved in. We also are in the process of presenting some belt buckles for 5 and 10 years, which is kind of a neat thing for somebody who's been sticking around for those marks, to give them some kind of updated belt buckles, and those are kind of fun. This Wednesday, our volunteers will be helping with the setup for the Sandy breakfast, the sportsman's breakfast, and looking forward to that. In fact, we're looking forward to continuing working with your volunteers anyway, and as we've been drilling with them for a long time. So we look forward to that, including the chaplains that'll be coming over, and we'll be having a conversation with chaplains about some of the differences and similarities between our programs as well. And then I mostly just want to say thank you. I get the opportunity now to also serve as the chaplain to the Oregon. I always have to look at Oregon Fire District Directors Association. I just call it UFDA. It's easier for me that way. So and I got the opportunity 2 weekends ago to tell them thank you for what they do with the LoSAP program. But this is my opportunity to say thank you as well to you, because to our volunteers, that makes a difference and we appreciate it. So that's really all that I've got, unless you have any questions about the association itself.
Well, the volunteers are critical to the operation of this district, and we thank all of you for your time and effort, which helps make us successful.
I'll pass that along to them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vice President Johnson. So correspondence and informational items are in your packet, or does anybody have any comments on any of them in particular? No, okay. The next meeting of the Board of Directors will be on Monday, May 15th, 2023 at 5 p.m. here in this building. It is hybrid. There's a public invited to attend by remote video conferencing or in person here. Not being any further business, I'm hearing. The meeting is adjourned. No.